Hi guys, this is Miss Carballo, and I'm just going to review the word problems ECART check to make sure you understand each of these questions. So Jake made punch by combining 2.75 liters of orange juice, 1.25 liters of pineapple juice, and 3.5 liters of soda. He then poured equal amounts of all the punch into 3 different containers. So how much punch did Jake pour into each container? Your answer needed to be typed as a decimal. So there's different ways you guys can approach each one of these questions. If you are the kind of person who likes to draw a picture, then that's the best way for you. Then a picture is good to start. So I just like to put my information here. I know there's 2.75 liters of orange juice and 1.25 liters of pineapple juice and 3.5 liters of soda. And I know that they're putting all of these together and then pouring them into 3 different containers. So I'm going to add all these up on my calculator, or the Desmos calculator is the best. And that gives me 7.5 liters. And then I'm taking that 7.5 liters and dividing it into 3 containers. So then on my Desmos calculator, I'm doing 7.5 divided by 3. And I got 2.5. So I think if you put the word liters after it, but had a capital L, then it might have marked it wrong. So this is one of those problems where if you just put the number as an answer in ECART, then it would have marked it right at 2.5. And 2.5 makes sense once I add all those up and divide them by 3. All right, question 2 looked like this. Sharif went shopping for a picnic. He bought 2 1/4 pounds of hamburger and cost $4.48 per pound. 1 3/4 pounds of tomatoes that cost 88 cents per pound, and a head of lettuce that cost $1.24, and a package of hamburger buns that cost $3.56. So how much did Sheriff spend at the grocery store? So the 124 for the lettuce and the 356 for the buns, I don't think confused any of you. So $3.56 for the buns and $1.24 for the lettuce. I think once you guys saw this, you got to thinking, well, if there's 2 1/4 pounds of hamburger and it cost $4.48 per pound meaning for each pound. So for the hamburger, I have to multiply. And lucky for me, 1/4 is a decimal that ends. It's 0.25. So, and if you didn't know that, do 1 divided by 4 in your calculator. But 2.25 pounds times the $4.48 per 1 pound is how I'm going to figure out how much it cost for the hamburger meat. And that gives me $10.08. I'm going to do the same thing for the tomatoes. 1.75. Lucky for me that ends in that's a terminating decimal as well. So I can turn that 3/4 into a decimal and multiply it by the 88 cents on my calculator. And that equals $1.54. So the tomatoes were $1.54. I'm going to add that to the $10.08 and that to the $1.24 and the $3.56 to get $16.42. So when I add up all those numbers, I got $16.42. Let me look back at my question. How much did Sheriff spend at the grocery store? So I don't need to do any more steps. I added up the totals from each one. This one should have been B. All right, question 3. A farmer has 6 cartons of specialty eggs for sale, and each carton contains 12 eggs. If 2/3 of the eggs are brown eggs, what's the total number of brown eggs he has for sale? So this is the problem we talked about right before the check. If you're drawing a picture, that's great. I'm picturing 6 cartons, and each one has 12 eggs. So I don't even know how many total eggs there are until I either add 12 6 times or multiply 6 times 12. And that gives me 72 total eggs. Now I can find 2/3 of 72. And of, when you're finding a part of a number in math, this is the biggest thing you guys can get this year, is that you multiply. You're taking 2/3 and you're multiplying it by 72, which, to make these both look like fractions, I'm going to put that 72 over 1. And then this is 144 on the top and 3 on the bottom. And when I divide those two, I get 48. Now, 2/3, you could have tried to turn into a decimal and multiply it by 72, but on your calculator, you can't put 0.6 times 72. It will not give you 48. It gives you 43.2, which wasn't even an answer, but you can't just turn 2/3 into 0.6 because 2/3 is actually 0.6 repeating, and you can't enter a 0.6 repeating on your calculator. You can do 2 divided by 3 on your calculator, leave the number there, like 2 divided by 3, leave your answer in the calculator, and then press times 72, like if you wanted to convert that first or divide it first. But that's the same thing as just multiplying fractions, guys. You go straight across. All right, question 4. Mark layered 3 pieces of wood to build the base for a lamp. The pieces were 1/4 inch thick, 5/8 inches thick, and 3/16 inches thick. And I believe all of these can turn into terminating decimals, like none of them repeat. Really quick review, if you're adding these up, you need to have the common denominator, and the common denominator of 4, 8, and 16 is 16. So luckily this one is, when I'm making equivalent fractions, is already has a 16 in the denominator. This one I need to multiply by 2. I'm basically multiplying the top and the bottom by the same number. And then this one is multiplying by 4. So I've got 4/16 plus 10/16 plus 3/16. So 4 plus 10 is 14. 14 plus 3 is 17/16, which is 1 and 1/16. If you turn them into decimals on your calculators because you don't like fractions or don't remember them, 0.25, 5 divided by 8, 0.625, and 3 divided by 16, 0.1875. And then when you added all those up, $1.0625. Now, oh no, none of these are in decimal form. But if you convert all of the answers, 7 divided by 16 is 0.4375. That's not it. 9 divided by 16 is 0.5625. That's not it. 15 divided by 16, 0.9375. And this one is the only one. Hopefully 1 divided by 16 actually equals 0.625. And it does. So that's one way if you converted them to decimals. You can only convert them to decimals in this problem, though, because none of these are repeating decimals. If they were, you got to add them up like I did, the long fraction way. Think those are the only 2 strategies you guys could have used. There could be more. There's always actually usually more different ways to solve these problems. Coffee beans sell for $8 per pound. This was the last question. How much would 5 1/4 pounds of coffee beans cost if it's $8 per pound? So if you keep them in fraction form, 4 times 5 is 20. 20 plus 1 is 20, 21 over 4. That's turning it into an improper fraction. And then I'm going to put this 8 over 1 so that I can multiply straight across. 21 times 8 is 168. 4 times 1 is 4. And when you divide those, you get 42. But I could have also, this is a terminating decimal. So you got lucky on this one too, in that you could have just multiplied that on your calculator, and that should have given you 42 as well. All right, guys, hope that helps. There's going to be some review questions. And if you still don't get some of these word problems, you're going to come see me on a Monday. Thanks, guys.